So, who are you?
My name is Peggy Boone. I'm in the Department of Zoology, but I'm in Karen Streyer's lab, and she's in the anthropology department.
So when you were in middle school and high school, what do you remember what your perception of a scientist was?
My idea of a scientist was basically someone like Diane Fossey or Jane Goodall, just because they were my role models at the time. And so I saw scientists as someone who was running around in the field and collecting specimens, spending hours hiding in blinds and studying animal behavior. But I think it's important for people to be exposed to a lot of different types of scientists. The office can vary in the sense that for some people it's a lab, for others it's a field.
So you always kind of wanted to do this kind of work.
I think my parents always had to be patient with the fact that I was bringing home a variety of animals and trying to recreate their environment inside our home, which they weren't always pleased with. So whether it was, whatever I could find in our backyard in North Carolina, snakes, lizards, mice even. But I'd say my biggest struggle as I grew older is I had this tension between wanting to pursue biology but also photography and journalism were things that I also saw myself pursuing as a career. And I actually thought about going to graduate school for photojournalism, but ended up pursuing science and biological research, and I just attempt to include photography as part of that as well.
What kind of research have you done since you've been here?
Well, my thesis was looking at how diet and food availability influence social structure of a species of lemur. It's called the greater bamboo lemur. So my field site is in southeastern Madagascar, and I was basically looking at how their specialized diet, you can guess from the name, they feed on bamboo, and how that influences their dominance hierarchies in relation to other lemur species.
What were some of the challenges of doing field work in a foreign country?
Well, even just to get to my field site is about a 5-day trek in itself. It's, an overnight flight to Paris, and then another full day flight to the capital, Antananarivo, and then about a 12-hour miserable car ride to the field site, and a lot of dealing with time changes and acclimation there. From the research point of view, dealing with a species that's critically endangered, obviously sample size is going to come into play. That's going to be a huge limiting factor. And the inability to manipulate the system in any way also makes it difficult to test hypotheses.
Yeah, because it's just kind of what you have.
Yep. What you see is what you get, and you have to basically formulate your study around that existing environment.
When you're not doing research, how do you spend your time here?
It depends on the semester. Sometimes I succeed in having a life outside of graduate school, other times I don't. But my other hobbies include ultimate frisbee, so I can stay active and get rid of all that excess energy and cramped legs from sitting behind a desk for a really long time. I also love photography, and I play guitar as well.
So what do you think is the weirdest thing about you?
I guess for my non-biologist friends, I recently almost got kicked out by my roommates because I was keeping a turtle in our freezer so that I could dissect it later, and that didn't go over too well with them. So it's now in my freezer in my lab.
So as a kid, you used to bring in all these animals from outside in your backyard and piss off your parents.
Right. Well, I found this turtle dead. I don't like.
And now
collect.
you're bringing in dead things.
I just opportunistically collected this so I could identify it and dissect it. Which, I don't find it weird to have skeletons in my freezer or closet, but they apparently.
So what's next?
Well, after I graduate, I'll be defending this May. I have a job this summer with the U.S. Geological Survey, and that's actually in Madison, looking at metal and organic toxins in tree swallows. But that will just carry me through the summer, and then I'll be looking for jobs with the Federal Wildlife Agency, so like either USGS or Forest Service or Fish and Wildlife Service, something like that. Basically balancing management and research to balance the needs of both humans and wildlife. I was trying to balance having a project that was interesting in itself, just for its scientific value, but also would have value to the species. That was the center point. In the back of your mind, there's sort of no point to the work if you don't think that it could actually have some positive net benefit somewhere down the line. And, we're all just links in that chain. But in this case, because I'm working with a species that has been so impacted by human disturbance and climate change, I personally feel that I have to keep conservation as a high priority in my research.
Peggy, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for taking the time.